Hello, Void. Alright, back to the backlog and back to the past with a bit of an older one. Now, I stated in my review for the third one in the series, Blair Witch, that I didn't care for the OG Blair Witch Project. I've watched this movie several times, and each time, it never clicked for me. I was really excited to see it the first time, and then upon watching it, I was like, that's it. I was disappointed. Tried giving it another watch years later. Didn't help. But this time when I rewatched it, it did fall a bit more into place for me. I'm still not going to rate it the greatest, but I found myself appreciating it more. So, The Blair Witch was one of the best marketed movies of all time, I will say. Now, The Blair Witch Project, circa 1999. This one follows a group of 3 filmmaking students as they go into the woods to search for the titular Blair Witch. And then, as their project is for school. Now we have a title. So, they do a bunch of interviews with the town before heading into the woods, getting lost and being unable to be found. And this is pretty much the tapes that were found in the woods later, which kind of shows what happened to these kids. Okay. Now, this isn't the first found footage, but it is the one that really jump-started the found footage genre as a proper genre. There's a few odd ones here or there, like Cannibal Holocaust, or a few others here or there, but this is the first one that really made it feel like you just stumbled across some footage in the some lost footage, and here we go. And it got so many copycats and knockoffs but this is one that kind of lit that fire. So I think what really kind of took me out of it, and it's the first one I was expecting more out of it because of how hyped it was. Because, you don't see much in the film. It's a minimalism film. But on the other hand, Paranormal Activity does that also, so it can work. So maybe after I got more used to that kind of style thing, helped me soften on this thing. Otherwise, it's also the characters. A lot of it is just the bickering in the woods. It gets a little grating at times. I think that was the other thing that kind of rubbed me wrong, is like, you want to sympathize with the characters, but they don't make it the easiest. I think, a lot of this was kind of improv dialogue. They did just kind of go off on things. So I think, with the stressful situation, a lot of that can be forgiven. And just, I think this rewatch, it didn't bother me as much. Again, maybe because I knew more about what I was getting into. So, I do appreciate what they were trying to do for this. The whole viral marketing thing, well, that virus is still contagious to this day. There's still found footage constantly coming out. But this one definitely advertised it the best. Otherwise, I don't know how much there really is to say, because there's not really effects to discuss. There's not really a soundtrack to comment on. Like I said, it's very minimal. It's just, here's the tapes, have at it. And I will say there are definitely some scenes that are rather tense, particularly as the ending does approach. And the last scenes definitely were creepy. And sometimes when they're just telling stories about what the witch would do and things like that, were more chilling than what they were actually showing. So, I've grown a bit more softened on this one. Blair Witch 2 is the most maligned one, and actually for me that was probably my favorite of all of these. But, the third one, I didn't rate the highest because it just felt like it fell a little flat, but there were so few things that stuck with me. And that's kind of how this whole series seems to go. Cool concept, doesn't quite stick the landing, but there's always a bit or two that just does stick with me. For me, the third one, it's like when when all the groups have separated and these 2 people come off and oh, we just saw you. No, it's been weeks. Do you have any food? Kind of stuck with me. Well, this one, it's definitely more of since it emphasizes that filmmaker aspect of it, I think that's kind of what holds over. And then the last shots of it with the house in the woods was very creepy. I haven't yet done a video for Blair Witch 2, so I'll discuss that one when I get to that one. That's a whole other thing. Well, the Blair Witch Project, it holds up. Just, you have to be in the right mindset for it. It is slow moving, it is minimalist, but it does work. It just sometimes takes more than one viewing to get it to work. I'm still only gonna give it like 5 MacGuffins because it's still not one I'm gonna put on very often. It's got some good atmosphere, but otherwise the characters themselves don't endear as much as they should. I think just because of how they're playing into their character types, with the dedicated girl, the mess up, and then the guy who's just trying to hold them together, it makes them a little unpalatable after a while when they start arguing. Alright. All on this one, Void. See you soon.